Hello everybody and welcome back to Emily's Upcycled Home. For project number 1, we are going to be working with this wood piece here. Now this is a piece where my husband was playing around with his laser, so it has some of these lasered cuttings here, but it didn't cut through, so I'm going to go ahead and upcycle this piece. And I'm going to go ahead and start in with coming in with my sander here, and I'm going to sand the item, making sure the corners are rounded, and repeat the process for both the front and the back. Now for the back of this piece, I don't put it on camera, but I go ahead and decoupage a vintage music sheet to the back to cover up all that gather part there, and that's going to be the back piece, and this will be the front. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to wipe off all that dust here. And then I'm going to come in with some white paint. And I'm just going to coat the front and the back. And I'm using the Bear chalk paint in the color white. And this is the brush I'm using. It's just a zebra paint brush from Amazon. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a coat of white on here. And then we're going to let that dry, and then we'll move on to the next steps. Now I'm going to come in here with this molding. It's a Prima molding, and I'm going to go ahead and add some filigree. Here it is. It's the Bridgeport Iron Gate Prima mold. And I'm going to come in with my paper clay here, and I got both of these items off of Amazon. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill the molding with my paper clay and pull off the excess and just work here with my fingers and just get all that clay into the molding and work, like I said, off the excess, pushing the clay around until it fits in the molding the way I want to. And then I'm going to come in and we're going to take it out, and I'm going to come in with my E6000 glue, and we're going to glue that to the top of the piece. So I'm going to just position the piece, trying to find the center as best I can. If you want to be perfect here and you want to find the exact center, go ahead and pull out your measuring tape and find the center of your piece. For me, I just kind of eyeball things and just kind of work from there. And the thing I should have done is just put the glue on first and then position it, because then I'm going to take it off here and add the glue, which defeats the purpose of positioning it and then finding that placement in the first place. So I'm going to come in with this E6000 here, and you can get that at Hobby Lobby, at Amazon, Home Depot, whatever store, craft store you have. And then I'm going to just work that glue into the clay and once again reposition this on the board. Now I'm leaving all the imperfections here, the little nicks and cuts, into the board, and I'm not going to worry about that. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to make a little floral bouquet with some of these little stem pieces here that I have, clipping off the ends, and I'm going to hang these like upside down, like if they're flowers that are drying. And I'm just going to make a little bouquet and position the flowers how I want them. So here I am coming in with a rubber band and just going around to bind all those pieces together. And then I will come in with my twine and I will wrap the twine around where the rubber band is. And I'm going to clip here all these little stems to kind of just give it a little cleaner look and a finished look and make the stems a little bit more even. Now here I'm just still positioning the flowers how I want them, and they're not really lying the way I want them to. So eventually I go ahead and staple one of those leaves down. And here comes the twine that I was talking about, and I'm just going to wrap that as many times as around, covering that rubber band and tying it tightly into the knot. And I think I found that positioning that I like. And now I'm going to go ahead and try to add some transfers here. And now I just want the wording on this transfer and the little filigree design on the bottom. And I was thinking about not even putting the wording in there and adding my own different wording so that it kind of goes with the piece a little bit more. But I went ahead and left this as is. And this is an IOD transfer from the Baroque package, I believe. I'll try to add that in here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use the backing of my plastic and rub that transfer into the wood, giving it a better seal. Now for the second part, I'm trying to position it somewhere, and then I decide to go ahead and not put it on at this time. And eventually you're going to see me come back and add that piece in. But right now I'm going to go ahead and staple the greenery to my board. And I am lifting the top layer and stapling the bottom thicker branch here. That way the staple is covered by the greenery when I finish positioning this. And now that little stem there that I keep working with, I eventually off camera go ahead and add a staple there so it could land the way I want. So there's the piece so far. And now we got to let that paper clay dry, and then we'll come back and finish up the next step for that. So our paper clay dried here, and I'm going to come back in with the same bare white chalk paint, and I'm going to cover up all that paper clay that is now dried to make it fit into the piece a little better. So now I'm going to come in with my paintbrush and this bare antiquing wax, and I'm going to go over the molding, highlighting the ends, making them darker, and blending in towards the center and coming up with a lighter color there so that it looks darker on the edges and a little bit lighter into the center. And I'm just going to go around the whole molding here and repeat that process and just keep highlighting and keep blending until you like how your piece looks. Now, to give the dark wax a little bit more workability, if that's a word, you can add some clear wax up first, and that'll give you a little bit easier time working with the dark wax if you don't want it so dark. And you can also come in with the light clear wax and take some of that dark wax off. Now here I'm just going in with that same brush and the same antiquing wax, and I'm hitting all the edges of the board, coming in darker in on the corners and on the edges, and rounding out those corners, and then we'll come in and blend everything all together. But just keep blending and just keep working in your dark wax and decide how dark you want it, how light you want it. You know, just figure out what your taste in your item will be to do this. And if you want something like this, just keep blending and work towards the middle of the item, pulling into the board. So here is where I come in with that second piece of the transfer, and I decided to go ahead and put the little silhouette of the person's head into that round part of the molding. And I'm just cutting it to size here. And then I'm going to go ahead and rub that transfer into the piece here with my little handy dandy stick here. And now I'm just going to add some little filigree to the top corners of the piece using the little ribnets of the leftover transfer. I'm going to go ahead and rub those into both sides of the piece. Now here I come in with the little wording that's on the piece and just cut those 3 little words out and place them on top of our piece here. Now, if I can go back, I probably would not have put these on there and just left them out, but they're on there now, and I'm going to go ahead and leave the piece like that. And let's go ahead and continue, and I think after these transfers are on, we'll go ahead and sew the piece, and then it'll be done. The last part of this piece is we're going to come in with DIY Big Top, and we're going to seal all the transfers and seal all this piece, all the project all together. And then we'll be done. Moving on to project number 2. So project number 2 is just a simple upcycle. I'm going to spray paint this vintage little bowl here. It's a metal ornate bowl, and I'm just going to do a couple of coats of this Rust-Oleum spray paint in white, and then I'm going to seal it, and then that project will be done. So for project number 3, I bought this candle holder and it unscrewed into 2 parts. So I went ahead and made 2 different pieces out of this. And on this piece, this part of the candle holder, I'm going to go ahead and add a piece of air dry clay. So we have a flat surface for our little plant that we're going to add here to attach to this piece. And I'm just going to use that same air dry clay that I get from Amazon and that we used on our first project. And that same, I'm going to come in with that same E6000 glue to glue the air dry clay onto the surface of the piece. And I'm just molding it to the top of the piece, trying to make a flat surface here. And then I come in with this wood round to help me make that surface a little bit more even and flat to the stand here. And then I'm going to come in with my fingers and I'm just going to take off the extra clay that's on the base of the piece. And I was going to add some molding here, but I decided not to. It's going to be a rustic piece, so I'm going to just leave that clay as is and let it harden the way it hardens. And then we're going to come in with that same bare white chalk paint and we're going to paint up our piece and then let this set this aside and let dry. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm having so much brain fog and finding my words, and I'm dealing with a little bit of fatigue here, and it just messes me up. But we're going to go ahead and set this aside and let it dry, and I think I eventually do 2 to 3 coats of this bare chalk paint. It's not as thick as the DIY chalk paint, so I do have to do more coats. Now, this is a little round base that I have, and I believe I originally purchased these from Hobby Lobby just as staging pieces, and I took out the greenery, but eventually add that back in for this project. Now here it is all glued up and dried. Now there's the top, and it has these little pebbles in there just for weight and I guess to take up room. And then here I am. I'm just going to go over here and do a second coat on this. And I'm going to really speed this up because this video is getting a little bit too long here. So here's our piece all painted up and the greenery added back on. Now I'm going to go ahead and come in with my sandpaper and distress the piece. Now the base is metal and the pot is like a little faux terracotta piece, and I'm going to go ahead and distress both the metal base and the terracotta pot. So for our last part here, we're going to go ahead and add some a transfer to the pot part of the piece. Now this is a Prima label design, and I got this off Etsy. And I'm going to go ahead and add this to the top of the pot, and then we're going to seal the piece with Big Top by DIY, and then this project will be completed. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys like these thrift flips. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm having difficulty with my shops, but I will link my links to Mecari on my comments. And here's the results.